Hello everybody, Andrew Casey from Hypersanity Books. Today's video we're taking a look at Rowan Atkinson with writing advice, and the writing advice, less is more. Otherwise, let's get Number 10. High IQ.
He's a genius, huh?
That's what they tell me.
Rowan Atkinson has a high IQ. One thing that is quite surprising is he had a history as an electrical engineer and had a high IQ, but chose a different path in life. And that comes into the discussion, less is more. So you'd be quite surprised that his high IQ comes into a lot of his writing and a lot of his storytelling.
Well, it looks like a fruitcake to me.
Number 9. Simple formula. He has a simple formula for a lot of his writing. So with Mr. Bean as an example, or another movie, Johnny English, it opens up with one scene with a subplot, and then that one subplot, for an example, he's arrogant in Johnny English with his co-person as he's going to jump off the plane. There is already a setup between there being two large buildings, so that's already setting up the scene. The punchline is that he's in the wrong building. So that's one of the formulas that he used for Mr. Bean and a lot of his iconic characters. It's having the simple formula that allowed him to write extremely fast, and keeping that same pace, it allowed to line up for the punchline. So think about that with some of your writing. Some scenes might be led up to a point, and the punchline is the point of that whole scene.
No, you must look!
Number 8. Plotter versus pantser. He actually uses both methods. So here's a plotter when it comes to the script writing, and as a pantser, he'll write that script fast. The changes come after the fact. Although with a lot of interesting points, a lot of his scripts will be written one way, and there aren't too many changes, only minor changes, because he's laid out the story well. So that saves a lot of time to allow him to produce and get on to the next project. When to remove yourself from a project. With certain projects, he has collaborated with other people to create different films like Rat Race. With the character, he will play his iconic character within the role. And when it comes to other things that he has created, when it comes to the end of production, he has a big break from it. When everyone else is laughing, he's not laughing. He needs that break from it because he spent too much time in that other world. So that's something to also think about with some of your writing. When you've finished, there is that break that you need before you get on to the next project. When it comes to different actors, he's been easy to work in with, and some of the different formulas for different films. So with an example as Rat Race goes, it's his characterization and himself within the role, but there are other actors and comedians within the role to do their part. And the way it formulated between different collaborations, he was able to still be himself within that role. He was still able to write his own character, and other people were able to collaborate without it being a toxic environment.
You know what? Split the money 50-50. Oh, you know what I mean, 50-50, whatever.
Yes, that's a good plan.
It's a race. I'm winning.
Number 6. Not the 9 o'clock news. This is where he first started with solo skits and acting. So keeping it simple, that was one thing. Not many people do like stand-up comedians, or they like one-man shows. He has done a lot of that sort of work. And with learning from those experiences between the failures and the successes, he was able to develop faster and quicker under that pressure.
Male adulterers, if you could just form a line in front of that small guillotine in the corner there.
So one-man shows are not so popular compared to a stand-up comedian. Within the interaction to the audience, he has had some interesting dialogue, and a lot of the simple argument within this subject matter of less is more, he was able to produce more results with less work. Number 5. Mr. Bean. This is his most iconic character. Most people associate Rowan Atkinson, or still call him Mr. Bean, with the character. He didn't have much dialogue. The scenes were very simple. With it being a simple written show, it was able to produce at mass scale. With the show as well, to the point between him having a high IQ and writing the show, considered what kind of show it was, it allowed production to be fast and easy to work in with other people. So keeping his main character to less dialogue and other characters to have their slight interactions also allowed to set up different punchlines for later. So within certain subplots in the infamous Christmas episode of Mr. Bean, you have this scene. Which also leads to a build-up within the end of the episode.
Stand there, or can stand there, or can even stand just here. This is brilliant. What's wrong with it?
And then what was the punchline? The punchline wasn't quite what you expect within the Christmas episode.
Merry Christmas, Mr. B.
Number 4, Blackadder.
Just disappear! Honestly, you'd think someone was coming in here, stealing the damn things, and then selling them off.
So within a particular series, he writes the character within one generation, centuries ago, and then other generations later, there are other versions of the Blackadder character, just recreated in a different light. With this simple storytelling, less is more, he was able to focus on fewer episodes, put a lot of effort into each episode, and then move on to the next season, and have it vastly different from the original season, but still be recognizable from the previous seasons with the characters.
1, 2, 3, 4. So how many are there?
3.
What?
And that one.
3 and that one.
The Blackadder character was also a darker tone of character with an antagonistic feel to his character, which was different to other work that he has done. So within his character, it was showing a lot more of his intelligence within this character. It was just a different way of presenting and a different way of taking advantage of other characters. And he had some interesting valid arguments within different episodes or ways of justifying different behaviour. And it was a dry humour that made Blackadder work. Number 3, handling rejection. Johnny English had a lot of backlash when the movie came out. A lot of fans and critics didn't like the film. There was a certain part where Rowan Atkinson was depressed because of the role. I was quite surprised that he made a sequel and then turned it into a trilogy. Handling rejection is a big point. It's not easy for anyone to put your work out there and get criticised between the good and the bad, and some people focus on the bad. In his case, a lot of people focus on the good. You look at Paul Feig with his movie Bridesmaids. People loved the movie. And then, after he did the Ghostbusters movie, well, there is still backlash even today. And that's 2016. So people remember Paul Feig for that, but they don't remember the good things that he did. And with Rowan Atkinson, because he's done so many different works of art, is he criticised for the bad works? Absolutely. Are they necessarily all that bad, really? Number 2, Mr. Romantic.
Put me on me box, she says I'm Mr. Romantic, on me fantastic.
No, not from that scene.
Delivery. If it isn't hot, there's a 50p refund on your next purchase of diet or regular Pepsi. Offer only applies between 6:30 and 7, Mondays and Tuesdays, subject to availability. Usual restrictions apply.
Definitely not from there.
Come, my beloved. Let us see if the vine flourishes, and the tender grapes appear, and the pomegranates bud forth.
So the premise of one story I quite liked. He plays a vicar in a small town. Within the story, his wife is potentially going to have an affair. The intention is there. his daughter is also getting into certain trouble. And then his daughter is also being stalked by the mother's lover.
Can't go around killing people just because you don't approve of them.
Do you know, that's what my doctors used to say. It was the one point we could never agree on.
So with the romantic part, the mother understands the needs of the daughter and the temptations. She also understands that he is a husband under certain stress, preparing for other events forward. With a bit of guidance and help, turning to the Bible, she turns the Book of Solomon or Song of Songs, whatever you want to call it, and gets that as an influence to build up romantic tension. So within this role, it was done respectfully with the reconnection between him and his wife. And within the poetic sense, if you were to actually read that book within the Bible, it's not really that romantic, obviously, but some of the different parts of the story being broken down to create the scene, create the setting, and the way it was written between something inspired from the Bible to what he did for this romantic scene, it is a fantastic tool. And it's also something to think about, because some couples do go through a lot of times and periods where there is division. And then there are other times of reconnecting, and that reconnecting is building a stronger relationship to last through the ages. Number one piece of advice. Don't tell people what you're going to do. Do it and shock them. And after shocking them, stay silent. Move on to your next project. Keep shocking, keep enjoying. I think this is some of the best advice that you can do within your life. Sometimes, and I find this, if you are writing certain projects and you are excited about it, you do want to share. At the moment with a co-worker, I'm working on a book with someone else. Now within this particular project, there are other people that we work with that are curious. We're keeping it a little bit more silent and private because we would rather finish the project, shock them, and move on to the next project. So learning from Rowan Atkinson, there is lots of advice that you can learn from him, and just keep enjoying. There was also another part of his history where he was trying to get into doing comedy, and he was stuttering and stammering. So he created his own show, Mr. Bean. Within certain problem solving, you don't have to stick to certain norms to create your art. Otherwise, that's it for today. Hit like, subscribe, comment. I'll be doing more book reviews soon. I'm just working on some other projects. But at the meantime, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.